Hi, this is Kevin, Map Practical. This is Intro to GIS Lab 6. I give you a folder full of a bunch of data. There's a quick start manual for the GPS units and then the instructions. Usually we meet and go outside and map trees on campus and then compare them to our Arboretum file, but with COVID and so forth. You can just take this marked trees CV and start the lab with that. It's got, the eastings and northings of the trees that would have been navigated to, and then the guess of the species that you wanted. It's a CSV because I know for sure that ArcGIS will be able to read that. It says that they can read a XLSX, but it doesn't always work. So CSV is kind of a guaranteed thing. So we'll close that guy. I don't want to save my changes. If you were to come to campus with your own GPS unit, you could use this one set of GPS navigation points, and you would navigate to 4 trees and then take 4 tree points. All right, let's take a look inside of our catalog. Boom, here we go. So here's our catalog. I give you a geodatabase with 4 layers in it: the base map, building footprints, parking spaces, and the trees inventory. That's the Arboretum file from 2012. If we were to take a look at one of these guys and look at its properties, you'll see they're in NAV 83, State Plane, Montana, FIPS 2500. We're going to be working in UTM for this entire exercise. So let's create a new geodatabase, not in our raw data, but in our Lab 6 folder. New, file geodatabase. Always use the file geodatabase. This will be my last name, _ Lab 6. There we go. And then in the lab instructions, it tell you to make a new feature data set. And this one's going to be _data. Remember, GIS does not like spaces, so always use underscores. And in this particular case, we're going to use UTM zone, NAT 83 UTM zone 12 north. If you don't know where that is, I'll just go ahead and show you. It's under projected coordinate systems, under the UTM folder. So you got to open that one up. Whoops, I went to tribal. That's UTM. And then NAT 83, and then down to the zone you're looking for, in this case, zone 12. Say next and next, and finish. And then we're going to load the data that's in our original geodatabase that's in the raw data. So I'm just going to right click on my feature data set, import multiple. I'm going to open up this layers that's in my raw data and just bring over the base map, the building footprints, parking spaces, and the trees pre-inventory. And we'll say OK and let that rip. Let me take a look at the instructions, make sure I'm leading you down the right path. Okay. Complete, very good. It's always a good idea to check your data. So let's open up our geodatabase. Right click on my base map and make sure it's in NAT 83 UTM zone 12 north. Perfect, just what we're looking for. Okay, in the raw data, I give you an ArcMap document called GPS Lab. If we double click on that guy, it'll open up, and the only reason we're going in here is to grab the actual the layer styles for this bottom layer. So it's got the trees, parking spaces, and buildings. We're going to turn that off, but the base map has this nice set of colors. I'm just going to right click on this guy, go down to save as a layer file, and then navigate to our Lab 6. So there we go. Basemap.layer is what we're looking to save it as. If that was different, you could change it and rename it, but it has to be a layer file. We'll hit save. Great, and then we can close this. We're not going to use this one. Nope, we're not going to save the changes. All right, and now we're ready to open up our own ArcMap document. So I'm going to go ahead and get it going. And just so I don't get a schema lock later or something, I'm going to go ahead and close. Oop, it wasn't fast enough. I'm going to close our catalog though. There we go. All right, so we're going to do a blank template, and it's a good idea to go ahead and set our geodatabase. So here we have our McManigal Lab 6. That's going to be our default. Let's say OK. And then we're going to add some data. So let's search. And because we set that, there's a little house on that geodatabase, and we know that it's ours. Go inside of there, and I can actually highlight everything inside the feature data set and say add. All right, they come in these awful colors, but we're going to fix that. So we'll turn off the trees, we'll turn off the parking spaces and the building footprints. And base map right now is just this green thing. So let's go to the Symbology tab for it. And we're going to do categories and then match symbols to a style. And then we're going to import. So we'll go here and we're going to navigate out to that basemap.layer file that we created. So grab that, say OK. It'll ask you what you want to use, and we'll say base map. Great. And when you hit OK, it'll ask you what field and handle is the right field. So you're matching handle to handle. And we'll say all right, and then apply, and there we go. Now we've got this nice looking campus that matches the style from before. Super. So this entire thing should be, this data frame should be in NAD 83 UTM zone 12. Let's check. We'll go to coordinate systems. Yep, there we go. And that's because the data from the geodatabase was in that coordinate system in projection, so it held on to that. And all right, now is a good time to save. So File, save this thing, and then make sure you're in the right folder. And then this will be Manigal _ lab 6 map. Okay, so we're going to be mapping trees based on what we did outside, even if we didn't go outside with our GPS units. Okay, let me just make sure I got everything right. Excellent. Okay, now we got to combine our GIS data with our GPS data. That Excel file that we created basically is the points that we took out in the field with the GPS unit. You can import directly from a GPS unit. There is a tool called import from .gpx, which is the file name that you would get out of a GPS unit. But so that we don't have to loan out chords and go through that, we just do it manually. We write down our eastings and northings in an Excel file. It's also a valuable skill to have. So we're going to go to File, and then Add Data, and add XY data. It's just a different way to add data, and then we're going to navigate to that Excel file. So there it is, markedtrees.csv. And that's going to come in, and then we have to change the X field and the Y field to what we need them to be. So the eastings are our X, the northings are our Ys, and then this coordinate system of input coordinates has to match what they were collected in. So if you collected them in just Latin long, then you would need to change this to something like NAD 83 or WGS 84. But because we collected them in UTM and we're in that same zone, everything should work out. Let's see. Yes, it's going to want to add a object ID field. That's fine. Boom, there we go. I'm just going to zoom down there. So there are 4 points. Those are the 4 trees that we're navigated to. Let's change their color and size so they show up on screen a little bit better. There we have them, right? So those are what they call XY events, right? So they're just temporary files. So we want to make those permanent. So let's go ahead and right click on it and go down to Data, Export Data, and navigate to put it inside our feature data set. So inside the data, and those are going to be our GPS trees. Trees, super. And yes, I want to add them. And now we can get rid of the events. We don't need the events anymore. We're going to remove those. Cool. And we can size these things and give them a unique symbology for the kind of tree that they are, right? So let's go ahead and do that. Let me see, make sure I'm doing things right for you guys. Yep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the symbol categories, and instead of just a single symbol for everything, I'm going to go to unique values, and I'm going to look in here and look at the name. Okay, and let's see if we add all values. Oh, that's actually just the GPS name. Let's do species and add all values. There they are. So now we've got our honey locust, our oak, our Scotch pine, and our western larch. We'll turn off all others. And these are just what we thought they were in the field. So they might be different than what the Arboretum file says. Let's take a look. So what you can also do is click on each individual, and if you type in tree up here, not trees because there can never be more than one. That's just a weird thing. You'll get all these tree styles. And I like some of the styles at the bottom. I kind of like this one for a honey locust. You can say, okay, great. And then for an oak, do the same thing, tree. And navigate down to the bottom. And you can find there's even a couple more down lower. You can use this one for an oak. Super. Scotch pine. Let's go ahead, or Scots pine, I guess, actually is how you say it. And let's go down this guy. And that's going to be a pine tree, so we'll use this one. Super. And then we'll do a western larch as well. Oops. Too many E's in tree. And we got one more. Coniferous pine. We'll go with this one. Okay. And now, when we hit OK, you'll see that all of our trees are represented by tree symbols. And I think good idea for us to go ahead and say label features. And we're going to have to go in and tell it what to label it by. So on the label tab, we're going to go, instead of name, we're going to go with species. We'll take a look. So there we go. We've got our Scots pine, our honey locust, and our western larch, and our oak. All right. So let's turn on our pre-inventory trees. So there are all of our trees. So you can see that we were probably navigating to this tree right here, right? This one, oh, it kind of placed the tree with the GPS in the middle of the sidewalk, but it was most likely going to this tree up here. Honey locust is a little bit hidden, and that one's pretty close. So what we need to do is isolate just the trees that we were navigating to. So what to do with that is this 2012 pre-inventory. We're going to right click and go down to selection and make this the only selectable layer so we don't accidentally select and move anything else on screen. And then we're going to get the selection tool up here for select features. And we're just going to click on the trees that we were navigating to as close as we can tell. So that is one. I'm going to hold down shift. I'm going to grab this guy and hold down shift and get the one that's hiding behind the honey locust and the Scotch pine. So I got 4 trees selected. I'm going to right click on my pre-inventory and go ahead to data, export data. So I'm creating new data out of selected data. And we'll navigate to our geodatabase inside of here. And these are going to be our NAV trees. All right. Very good. And we'll go ahead and add those. Yes, I want to add them. Very cool. And then we need to unselect our selection on screen. So there we go. So for now, I'm going to turn off the pre-inventory trees. So we've got our 4 NAV trees. And what we want to do is we want to put a circle of accuracy from like the GPS on these. So I'm just going to look at the symbol and scroll down. And you can find like a hollow circle with a point in it. Like here's one here. And we make this a little bit bigger, like probably 24. And then say OK. And there we go. So that's supposed to recognize the circle of accuracy. Now our GPS units, depending on all the error, depending on the configuration of the satellites, will give us different amounts of accuracy. So it could be anywhere from, you know, down to 1 meter to up to 30 meters. In the field, the average is about 10 meters. So how would we know if this circle was 10 meters across? Well, at this point, it's probably a good idea to get into layout view. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So here I am in layout view. I'm going to set some guides at 1/2 inches. So at 1/2, and then at 8, and at 10 and 1/2, and at 1/2 down here. And then we're going to have a layout where the main map is about 2/3 of the page, and then we'll have a locator map and some room for our legend and title. And then I'm going to zoom to my NAV trees so they all show up, and that's pretty much what we're going to be going for our main map. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to get my little measuring tool here, and I'm going to measure across this circle. And it looks like it's about 6 meters. I'm going to try and go for about 10. So let's go ahead and make this guy a little bit bigger. Bump that up to about 36. There's 35. There's 36. Boom. So it's a little bit bigger. And then let's measure it one more time. Oop. And there we go. So about 9, almost 10. So 10 meters of accuracy. So whatever point you took is within 10 meters of where it should actually be on the place of the Earth. And it's kind of cool because you can tell now, go ahead and stop that measuring and get a different tool, close out this. But this point was within where the actual location of that oak was. This western larch almost didn't quite get it right. Placed it out here somewhere in the sidewalk. And that could be because it's kind of close to Main Hall and there's some big trees over there. What about if we look at these other honey locust within its circle of accuracy and also the Scots pine? So now we're in layout. We can just use the layout tools. Boom, there we go. And then the other thing I ask you to do in the lab is to go ahead and turn the pre-inventory on, but then to symbolize those guys in a different tree form. So we'll search for tree again, and this time we'll just make them completely different. We want to show the other trees, but little dots are not that exciting. So how about like a tree from the top, and we'll make that quite a bit smaller. So it's just not as big. There we go. All right, so that's the basics of our original map. And then we want to actually turn on the NAV Tree Labels. There we go. And so we've got a white oak and an oak, a Doug fir, we called it a western larch, honey locust they nailed, and the Scots pine we nailed. And I think the problem and why they look so bad labeled is because we probably don't have Maplex turned on. So let's go to General. Standard label engine is never a good choice. Let's go Maplex and see if that helps. There we go. So now we've got some nice stack labels. To make these things set apart, you could choose a different font. I highly recommend that. And then let me go ahead and save while we're thinking about it, and then see what else we need to do. All right. So we resized everything. We've got our zoom to show our 4 trees. We've got our NAV trees. We've got our GPS trees. They're all symbolized different. And we've also shown the labels for those, but then let's go ahead and turn on the building footprints. And actually I like the parking spaces, but let's make them white. I think that just is a better look, kind of like the lines that we see out in the parking lots. Cool. And then these building footprints, instead of having them symbolized by one single symbol, we're going to go to unique values and let's see, name code. I think that's correct. Add all values. There we go. And then we'll say apply. So now they're different colors. That's always good. And then we're going to go over here to labels, and we'll turn on label code and apply that so that the buildings get labeled as well. Very cool. All right, we can minimize that. So that's the basics of our main map. That's pretty much all we need to do. Now we need to make a locator map for campus. So I'm going to save, and then I'm going to go to Insert, Data Frame, and it should give me a new data frame. I'm going to grab that guy and bring it up here into the guide, make it about half this size, and come down a little bit. And I'm going to copy, this is our new data frame down here. I'm going to rename it actually first, call this the locator map. All right. And I'm going to copy my base map from the first layers. So copy and right click on locator and say paste, and boom, there we go. So there's the exact copy of the layer that we were using before. And I'm going to zoom in a bit. There we go, there's campus. And then I'm going to add a copy of my tree inventory. So right click and copy and locator and paste. And there they are, way too many trees, right? So we're going to go in there and just pick our favorite tree. So let's go to Symbology, and instead of single symbol for everything, we're going to go to category, unique values. Let's do it by common name, and then add values. And let's just choose one that we like. Doug fir, I like a Doug fir. I'll say OK, and I'm going to turn off all others and then change the symbol for this Doug fir to one of our tree symbols. And when I scroll down, let's see what I can figure out. I like this one again. There we go. And it's probably going to have to be smaller, otherwise it'll overwhelm the map. So let's make it maybe a 10. Let's take a look. Apply that. Not bad. So we got a couple of Doug firs around campus. That's great. Okay. And then we need to add a locator box, and this is actually pretty easy to do. So we just need to go into the data frame properties for the locator, go to properties there, and then we need to go to data frame, and down here, this extent used by all data, we're going to tell it, is this the right one? No, I think it is. Extent indicators. Oh, that's actually what we need to do. We need to go to the extent indicator tab and then tell it the layers to come over, and then go ahead and hit apply and watch what happens. It's going to use the data frame from the other data frame we have, the layers data frame, to put a locator box on our little locator map. And there it is. So we need to resize our locator map so it shows up. So I'll zoom out once after I hit OK. There we go. So there's our locator right there. So that red square represents the extent of this main map, which is very helpful. Now we just need to label a couple of things. So we could use our drawing toolbar up here. Let me do text, and I'm going to go ahead and just click once, call it Clark Fork. RV for river, and hit enter. And then if I go in there and look at its properties and then change symbology, I can actually scroll down and get the river. There we go. The river style, which is going to be a blue italicized, and then put it down here in the river. Maybe grab this little rotator tool, and there we have it. Clark Fork River. Cool. And then I actually ask you to label the University of Montana. If you wanted to label the M or do the trail, you guys know how to do that. Remember though, once you start drawing over the top of things with the draw tool, you need to stay at the same scale and extent. If you change that, it's going to change how your drawings look over the map, because they don't have any spatial coordinates, right? So we'll do one more of these guys. Montana. Hit enter, and I can't hardly see it, so we're going to change the style on this one as well. Go to properties, change symbol. I'm going to choose something like, let's go with a city label, and I'm not so much into Arial. I like to change it up, use something different. We'll use something different here. We'll go edit symbol, and I'm going to add a mask, which is a halo, and it'll automatically be in white. I'm going to look at my formatted text. I'm going to go with small caps and see how that looks. Not quite big enough. I think I'm going to go ahead and hit it one more time. And I can change symbol again and make this guy say like 14. There we go, University of Montana. Super. So we only have a few more things to do on this. So let's go ahead and insert a legend. And in this particular case, I'm just going to have, oops, I got the wrong one. I need to have my layers activated up here. So you can either click on it and have that data frame activated, and then the legend is coming from your main map. Or I could have right-clicked on it and said activate, right? Now I can do an insert legend, and I only want the NAV trees and the GPS trees. So everything else can get out of here. And the parking spaces and the base map, they're all out. And I'm going to say next. And let's change this legend to something useful, like trees. And probably helpful if I capitalize the M and And next, next, and next, and finish. And there we have her. But it does have some kind of ugly stuff like the name of the layer with the underscores and stuff. So let's right click, go to the properties, and then go to items. If we double click on NAV trees and tell it to not show the layer name, we definitely want to show the labels. So this one looks okay, maybe it's the GPS trees. Yeah, so get rid of the layer name here and the show heading, and now it's just going to have what we're looking for, which is trees, the NAV trees, and our 4 GPS trees. So we're good to go there. Just move that guy down. We've got a little space down below where we can add insert scale bar. Put one of those guys, and then pull it out till it's nice round counting numbers. Maybe we can get this bad boy to a 1/4 mile or something if we're lucky. Oh, there we go, 1 mile. All right, so that works. And then we got to put a title in it. Now you could put an insert title, but that's going to be dynamic text and you don't have as much control over it. Or you could just use your text tool here and then you'll have control. So University of Montana, and then, oh, I wanted to actually have it be stacked text. University of Montana, enter, and then this is going to be Arboretum. And let's go ahead and do a center justification, change symbol. Let's go with a big one like that. I don't really want to go with REL. Let's do something classy like times. So there we go, we have that. Maybe going to go bigger with a 20. And let's see how that looks. Apply, nice, but we definitely want it center justified. Apply, very good. Maybe a little bit too big, that's all right. We can change that pretty quick. Take her down, let's say like 18, let's try that. There we go, all right. So now that fits. So now all you need to do is throw maybe a north arrow in here, insert, north arrow. Just keep it small and clean, and move that off of the main map up here. Great, and give yourself some space and put your name right there, and you're talking about a done map. All right, not too bad, not too difficult. Let's save it, and then you would go to File, Export Map, and then choose 150 dpi JPEG, stick it in your folder, and then it's ready to go ahead and put right into your Word document for your report. All right, hope that was helpful. If you liked the tutorial, then please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.